Hello streamers, hello YouTubers, and welcome back. And let me just check to make sure my camera is actually in the right place. And because we've had a little technical glitch and stuff. And my tablet is taking the usual time of not wanting... Oh, okay, it has mostly worked, except I'm kind of cutting into your camera a little bit.
Way. At least we know the cameras are working.
And then if we... Yep, that works. That kind of works, although my head is kind of being blocked by my own chat, but... So, yes, everyone, YouTube and stream, welcome back to the podcast, and with a very special returning guest who would like to introduce himself. First time on Facecam on this.
Yeah, so I'm Essential's good old friend from back in the past. I was on a podcast some months ago, right?
Yes, it was. You were the second guest, weren't you?
Yeah, I think so, right?
So it must have been November.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, my name is Johan, and I'm from Sweden. And we're back at doing this podcast.
Yes, today is, if for those of you who have been watching the other elements of the stream, today has been quite a celebratory kind of thing, and it's already been quite interesting because this morning had the first ever time the channel's been raided by another Twitch streamer. So that was pretty awesome, and had some nice little pop-up guests who I wasn't expecting in the chat on the afternoon one. So now we are on this to wrap up, and I think first of all, the thing I want to bring up is... trying to think now. There was a game that, and this is going to be the spiral into the conversation. Okay. There was a game that crossed my radar. I came across it through a video, but it was a Finnish-made game, and one that was like the sequel to a 13-year-old game. And it is Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 2. Oh, yeah, I've heard about that game as well.
Yes, and I have rewatched a certain bit of that multiple times because it still just astonishes me the fact that they took what is essentially a horror survival game and threw a dance number into the middle of it, and it's just a whole full-blown musical number with the director in there and a rather stoic British actor as well, and it's like... I saw it on an Outside Xbox video, and they pretty much described it very truly. It's pretty much like being in a haze. Like it is so confusing and yet brilliant at the same time.
Well, no, that's just how the Finnish people work. They just put you in a haze all the time with anything they make.
You know, I was going to ask one of my Finnish mates if they wanted to be a guest. Kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess you guys making puns and jokes over each other is pretty much the same as the British Isles doing it to each other.
Oh yeah, but no. In the northern sphere, Sweden is basically the big punching bag for everyone. But we all know that it's because we're better than everyone else. They just look up to us with... and just... I'm really jealous, you know.
Anyway. So, last time you were on, we talked a lot about schooling and just the whole education side of things. And I mean, it was at the time, it was over a year ago, and now it is still happening. And I don't know what's going on elsewhere, but over here it is happening to seemingly just an increasing rapid extent, which is like the. I don't know how the creative economy is going in other places, but over here it is just specifically indie creativity is kind of skyrocketing. And honestly, it has been since COVID, and it's something which I've talked about to another mate quite a bit, and the whole mentality that, like, the growth of Twitch and all of that, and how pretty much it, for some people, it came in as a real significance in terms of just keeping them afloat during a time where no one could really talk to each other. Or they could talk, they just couldn't really see each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any follow up from that. Like,
I don't have much of a follow up. Ever since that pod, I've just turned my brain off for anything about school. I've just done my uni work. I just really lost catches. It's been more interesting news than school for me. Like, we've had several bombings here in Sweden and several shootouts.
Oh yeah,
so my whole focus has been over here.
Yeah,
like looking at the school system. But yeah, it's basically the same since last time we spoke. I've not noticed much of a difference.
Hello, Hysteria. Welcome to this live podcast stream.
Wagwan.
Hysteria is a fellow Swede.
Fuck yeah. Min fucking broder.
Oh, I'm kind of sad you can't see the stream chat. He just told me, do not laugh or we might think you are crazy.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there was... First of all, I know that whilst not all of them are going to be necessarily in the creative industry, I know that a massive proportion of them are, but maybe not all of them. But we had a report come out about like 2 weeks back now. And it was a poll, and it was UK, France, Germany, and the US. And it reported that something around 70% of our generation in the UK were now self-employed or freelance. Over
70%?
Yeah, over the basically traditional work. And
that's surprising.
Actually. I mean, a good proportion of that is just establishment of the state the UK's in at the moment. But there is also the case that for a long time, a lot of sort of analysts and people like who do like the reports for the future and everything, like I don't really know if they are doctors or what they are, but they have done a relative forecast that we're sort of, in our own way, we're a generation that are going to keep pushing creativity forward.
Oh, yeah.
And I think in terms of, because the last podcast episode I did, it was with Daniel Kulba, who is a American podcaster and author and teacher. And yeah, the whole chat about that was, we've like seen the rise of indie, and it's the case of, yes, the creativity, the creative aspect of it has changed with like not only the growth of the gaming industry as a whole, but also Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, all of these little platforms and that.
Yeah.
But you can say what you will about gaming, but I don't think it goes without saying that Twitch's most popular category last year was just chatting.
Oh yeah.
So it's not just game based. Like there's pockets and placements for everything. I mean, one of the things I've done recently with my Twitch is I've set up a Ko-fi page, and from what I've seen in the little bit of research I've done is that hello, you've frozen. Or is it me who's frozen? Someone's frozen. Okay, what's wrong here? Um, Had to emergency. It looks like it's actually just the Discord call that's crashed. Like everything else is still going okay. Ah, flipping Discord crashed. Right, sorry about that. My Discord's decided to crash. Right, we will attempt that again. Again, this is the first time trying to stream and record the thing at the same time, so apologies for people who watch this on Twitch, just a bit of technical palaver. I'm just going to call. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Right, yay!
Way! Woo!
That was. Nope. I just realised because of the way we got the cameras at the moment for me, my face cam's entirely blocking yours.
Let's go. That's how we like it.
There we go. So, yeah, what were we talking about? When did it freeze?
I have no idea. I know you got disconnected from my call when I got done about me chatting.
Your what?
Yeah, I was chatting away and not shitting, like talking.
Yeah.
But I do not know when you lost connection to Discord.
It never popped up that I lost connection. You just froze.
Yeah.
You just everything Discord based just froze.
So I have no clue.
And I was talking when it froze, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I can't remember.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, yeah. We were the last. Okay, the fact you just blinked is so relieving. Because I thought it froze again. The the previous podcast episode we were talking about the sort of rise of the indie creator, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult to say because it's like you are seeing a transition in work. Oh, well, okay. Let me rephrase that. We're seeing a transition in the phase of work. I think the majority of Europe have already been through it, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, we're the ones who are behind the kilter on that, I think.
Yeah.
But, which isn't that surprising. But anyway, the it is going to be quite intriguing, though. No, you're not behind hysteria, you're Swedish. I was talking about the Brits.
Goddamn Brits always behind.
I think just with how much the creative economy is forecasted to continue to like grow, and it's just, I mean, because people talk about how, and we even mentioned it on the last bit of the podcast, how opening AI is like a bit of a Pandora's box, like
Yeah.
it's not going to be closed again. Like,
Oh yeah.
honestly, I think you could make a similar argument to things like YouTube and Twitch. Now they are out there, there is probably always going to be something like that
Yeah,
about.
there's always going to be something of a creators hub or whatever you want to call it,
Platform
where
hub
people,
thing,
yeah,
I
where
mean,
people are just gonna do their own stuff, and some people are gonna be interested in seeing that.
yeah, this was one of the bits I was talking about without realizing we were frozen. Um, I set up a Ko-fi page, and it was debating between that, Patreon, and Buy Me a Coffee. And apparently, Ko-fi is like the one that artists and creators tend to lean into, so it was more potentially appealing for me with what I
Yeah,
do. And I think it is possible for creators to combine a whole lot of stuff at the moment. And like talking about our generation, I mean, they also deem us the first digitally native generation. Like this,
yeah,
the tech and everything, the things that are being used, this is stuff that we've largely grown up with. So, because there isn't much of an age gap between us, is there?
no, I don't think so. I'm 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's literally months between us.
Yeah.
I yeah. Have you got anything to add on the creative side of things?
um, yeah, I don't think I have much to add since I'm not much of a creator myself at the moment. Like I have focus on maybe doing something in that area, but as I've come to a conclusion right now with my studies, I'm probably gonna focus more on working as communication for what's it called?
The fact that you just said communication and now you can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, exactly. It might be a small little problem. I have not been speaking a lot of English since our last podcast, honestly.
That's fair
I,
enough.
I think it might be my last conversation in English, maybe. So it's been a while. It's been a long while. Uh, and we don't have much English studies right now, so I'm not needed it that much. But yeah, so what I'm trying to work with is communication. What I'm done with my studies, um, and first I was thinking like becoming a producer and all that. I think I mentioned that in our last
Yeah.
podcast. But as for me, I'm not that much creative when it comes to, well, making pictures and all that stuff. I'm more of making speeches and just make it sound a little bit more interesting. Um, so I don't have that much to add to the creator part. But I do know that there's a lot in the creative industry where there's a lot of money to be made. Because if stuff like ASMR videos and eating videos is so big as they are right now, all you need is just to make a connection where someone needs to feel like they're part of something.
Yeah, I mean, whilst I was actually having dinner, I was rewatching a video I've watched I don't know how many times now. An old Achievement Hunter one, but it was one of their, well, what they called their Ready Set Show series, but it was one of
Yeah,
the ones where they were trying. Well, first it was two. The first one was when they were trying more weird dehydrated snacks,
yeah.
and the other was when they were trying a chocolate roulette, but each of the chocolates had a different kind of filling, and they had to try and guess.
Oh yeah, I love those videos because like uh, the funniest stuff is just watching people eat something disgusting, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you also have, and this may be the simplest one of all of them. How popular are reaction videos?
Reaction videos.
Yeah,
I can't remember. They used to be really big.
these. Oh, it's frozen again. Oh, hello.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, it just decided to do something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
And
So we're back again, I'm
yes, yes.
guessing.
I am so sorry about this.
That's all right. That's all right. Where were we?
We were talking about reaction videos.
Oh yeah, reaction videos. But yeah, there's it used to be a lot,
There,
but
there,
right
there,
now,
there are still numerous channels that
yeah,
still do them, and it's like their main content in a lot of cases.
yeah. I feel like those channels nowadays almost like brain rot channels. It's like you'll watch them, but like during the day you will have forgotten everything about what you watched.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like you gain nothing from watching them.
yeah.
But I guess there's a lot of people just basically doom scrolling, watching all of those videos.
I think in some cases they've almost taken the new form of like mindless television.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, how many different creative mediums are there now?
A lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
We we
way too many.
we we would be here for way too long, but
Yeah, it's like, especially with a lot of them basically becoming the same, like stealing others, like how YouTube basically stole how TikTok works and made their YouTube shorts. I saw a video about this, I think yesterday, about um, a lot of people are watching shorts and like TikTok videos. But if you really try to remember anything that you watched, you won't remember anything because it's basically just brain rot and you gain nothing from watching it.
yeah. I mean, How does that not disorientate you doing that?
What?
Switching between the light and the dark.
Oh, yeah. I'm just bringing up our Steam chat, so I just had to close it down.
Ah,
Yeah.
I,
But now the light shouldn't flicker anymore. I hope.
I mean, one thing I've noticed and been noticing, because, well, it's the world I'm in now, but it's like the return of young people going into book writing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you've got others who are looking at, and I can't remember what episode it was, but there was one episode of the podcast. I think it, I think it was the one after yours,
Yeah.
where we had an entire segment where we just praised the skill sets of modders.
Oh yeah, like the ones making mods for games and all that,
Yeah,
right?
game modders, and
Yeah.
it's just the amount of talent and understanding that showcases. And at the end of the day, they are passion projects. Like
Yeah.
the only time I've heard of a mod attempted to be monetized, it didn't kill the mod. It very nearly killed the entire game,
Yeah.
and that was an Elder Scrolls game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Are you talking about when they tried to monetize like I think it was Skyrim Special Edition, something like that. Where they just
Possibly,
went like, you know what? You used to have mods for free. Now you pay for it. You're welcome.
yes, and that went as well as could be expected.
Yeah.
But I think the other element of it is that you have, if you look at all the sort of massive creative, and okay, no, this isn't just going to focus on gaming. This is going to focus a bit on films and TV as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, the one that jumps out to me most recently is Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers have been not making some very decent decisions in the last few years,
Oh yeah.
and Disney as well, and so you've got them, but you've also got, I mean, even to an extent, Creative Assembly.
Oh yeah. CA has honestly been a letdown in my opinion in a very long time.
Yeah,
Basically, I just couldn't find them like doing anything interesting or good.
I I I was completely out of the loop of what happened with Rome 2, and I have no real
Yeah.
interest in that. But I, for me, the starting sign of things getting a bit worrying was what happened with Three Kingdoms.
Yeah, honestly, that was a massive letdown, honestly.
I
I
mean,
remember me and my friends were pretty static about it, and I think it was probably one of the biggest letdowns I've been with when it comes to gaming.
we don't need to talk about what happened with Troy and Pharaoh. Well, I say Troy and Pharaoh. Pharaoh actually wasn't. I don't think Pharaoh altogether actually got reviewed that badly, but Troy was atrocious.
To be honest, I didn't even know they had released Pharaoh.
Yeah, it's because Pharaoh's release got merged in with all the controversy
Yeah.
that happened with Shadows of Change,
Yeah.
which was the lovely stuff of late last year. And now they've got Thrones of Decay coming,
Way.
and it mm, I have hope. I have potential hope,
Potential hope.
even though, quite frankly, on a personal note, even though I still haven't played that much of the Total War Warhammers, honestly, it's a DLC that doesn't necessarily interest me. It's got three factions in there I'm not that interested in.
Yeah. You know, when it comes to hope about CA, I'd say I have as much hope for them as I have hope for Ubisoft, which is nothing at all. So uh, when it comes to like hopes and standards about releases of games, my hope about their games is like very low.
I would say out of all the different games, developers and everything, I think the lowest ones for me are probably. Right, I'm just going to continue talking until it resets if it resets. The hope that. This is why I don't use Discord that often. Just going off of what Johan said, I think when it comes for me personally, Yep. Okay, so we're going to reset the call again and we're going to try without camera this time. Because it's literally Discord doing it, it's nothing else doing it. The one time OBS doesn't mess up, something else messes up. Kind of glad we didn't have Yovko in the call as well, otherwise this would have turned into a real palaver. Bad. Other. It crashed twice. Right. Okay.
You're back.
Yes, I am. Do you want to maybe try without your camera this time?
Oh yeah. There we go.
Right. Now this will hopefully...
Now I can sit up like a monkey without worrying about seeing people see my boxers. There we go.
Right. And actually, as it's the case, I can actually turn off my display capture as well, which should help.
Yep.
There we go. I'm just going to put a pre-Athalas map picture up. So there is some background. And then we will get back onto it.
Yep.
This is the second time this map has made an appearance today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the first bit was when I did pretty much a massive geographical lore talk earlier.
Ah.
But I was just about to pretty much follow up from what you were saying about pretty much ranking hope for gaming industries. Because honestly, in terms of the lower level, I have another game another group, and one that honestly I never thought I would be putting down here, but that's Rocksteady. After the new DC game, because it absolutely butchered the Arkham story in a few different ways.
Yeah. That's why I don't play any more games that has a lore behind them, because I think a lot of people, at least when it comes to writers of games nowadays, um, they do a lot of writing and all that, but
But they don't necessarily pay attention to what's come before.
exactly, yeah. Or they just have to rewrite because the higher ups don't like how the story is coming out, so they
Has
have to
I
do something else.
okay? I don't know how much you know about this series, if you've ever even remotely gone near it, but
Okay.
surely one of the best examples of, because I might be completely wrong here because I do not know the franchise that well, but surely one of the maybe counter arguments to that in terms of writers still doing decently is Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, I have never touched Final Fantasy.
I haven't either, but it. I mean, it's one of the longest running series, and it,
Yeah,
from the sounds of it or the looks of things, like, because it's not a season based thing. It's not like each game is like, oh, now they're dealing with this, or oh, it's a continued story,
yeah,
from what I gather. And so Rocksteady are down there for me at the moment.
yeah.
Creative Assembly's hope when it comes to me is Empire 2 or Medieval 3. That is pretty much it at the moment, or unless for some reason they got some sort of connection, maybe with oh, what's their name? Creators of Warcraft,
Yeah. What are they called now again? Uh,
Blizzard.
yeah, Blizzard.
Yeah, because I mean, Warcraft has the potential of having some pretty. That's the thing. As not brilliant as Creative Assembly have been since, I would say, Warhammer 2. Warhammer 2 was the last real good, awesome one. Um, I think the thing about it is that whilst they have cocked up a lot of stuff, they have also created a load of things and implemented a load of things in the Warhammer series in particular that unlock a whole load of potential. And I will flat out say that when it comes to Total War, I am far more orientated to fantasy than no to history than fantasy. But
Oh yeah,
I'd also make the argument that that is because their only fantasy one so far has been Warhammer, and before the trilogy came along, I had no interest in Warhammer whatsoever. So I don't know if that's more me preferring history or just the case that I just was not aware of Warhammer that well.
uh, I
But
think it might be a little bit of both,
yeah,
honestly.
so do I. Because
But in my opinion,
I mean like
yeah,
the one that comes to mind that I have to sort of rule out as like I don't think that this is gonna ever be properly possible would be like a Narnia Total War. But
maybe a mod someday,
I mean,
but I'll never.
yeah, I mean you've got mods for Lord of the Rings, Elder Scrolls, Warcraft, and they are all very awesome mods. And those are
Yeah,
mods for what is now an incredibly old game,
yeah,
Medieval 2. And I know you didn't see that, but I've just saluted. It is the prodigal son of Total War by far.
yeah. Honestly, I love Medieval too. It was fucking amazing.
I mean, one
I'm
of
sorry
my
for swearing.
yes, the amount I had to cut out in the stream in the compilation for the first Warband event thing. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, that must be a lot, right?
That's an understatement. And yet, still, I then invited for another reg the other day, and they were worse,
Yeah,
which kind of puts it in perspective in some cases.
yeah.
But
But yeah,
I,
I
I,
think
I
Medieval 2 and like Civ 5 was games that actually got me interested in like strategy games.
I had I had one of my friends come to me a while back and suggest I should make a mod for Athalas, and it's like the the hilarious factor of it is the first games that come to mind when I think of making a mod for my fantasy world are
Yeah.
Medieval 2 or Battle for Middle Earth 2.
Yeah. It would be great though.
Hopefully. And I, I think when it comes, I wouldn't be too surprised that if in the future we can start seeing a greater birth of like proper professional cinema screen independent films
Oh
as
yeah.
people potentially get more bored of Hollywood. Or well,
Yeah.
not maybe not Hollywood, but like Disney and
Yeah.
the
I,
others and all of that.
I think there's a lot of people in just the movie industry actually trying to distance themselves a lot from the Hollywood sector of movies because like
Hmm.
we're seeing a lot of more independent film studios and like
And I mean Netflix.
Polish, Spanish, like they're doing pretty well,
Yeah,
while the
Netflix.
Hollywood is basically is dead, in my
Netflix is
opinion.
another big one. Like I have over the last few years watched a load of
Yeah,
history-based films on Netflix that I have absolutely adored. Um, Outlaw King, Battle of Judaville.
yeah.
Um, I mean, even Medieval, maybe not as good as those first two, but still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And I mean, on that last one, it was also kind of nice to have a medieval set film that wasn't focused around either Robin Hood or the Crusades. Because I don't, I mean, I say not focused around the Crusades, and that I will flat out say I absolutely love Arn.
Oh yeah, good old Arn.
Wasn't that when that first released in Sweden? Wasn't that two? Wasn't that like a two-parter?
Yeah,
Because it got compressed into
I
one.
think so. I can't really remember, but I think it might be released in two parts. Yeah. Uh, I just know they made at least one sequel to it. I think. I'm not fully sure.
I mean, you're jumping on and saying like we're saying about all of these new like what are effectively independent film streaming services and that, but then you also have the case that not all the streaming services are doing particularly well. The DC one kind of fell a bit flat.
I didn't even know they had a streaming service.
My point.
Yeah. But I think like the streaming services need to have a lot of monetary backing, right, to like even start to function well, and they need to have some of their own
They
creative possibilities.
it's one of those awkward balancing acts where they need to have the monetary backing, but they can't blatantly paywall people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, if we want to go down the road of microtransactions and stuff, I mean, PUBG.
Yeah.
uh, it is it is both interesting but also peculiar at the same time to see the kind of position we're in with a lot of things. Like on the filming side of things, you are seeing Marvel struggle more so now than they were. Their last couple of phases have not been particularly good, and their
Yeah.
TV shows have. So I think the TV show that actually, well, Loki was apparently amazing, and so is Moon Knight. But She
Yeah.
Hulk was.
Yeah. I only heard a bit about She-Hulk, and it didn't sound that good. Not even the idea about it.
Mm. But
Uh,
and then you also had the Ant-Man film that was
yeah,
well, actually, in fairness, again that Ant-Man film bugs me,
yeah,
and that was not a pun. It bugs me because it had the potential of being something really good, and I think, in all honesty, it could have stayed that way if they hadn't done whatever the hell they did when they decided to bring in MODOK and make him the first Ant-Man film villain's return.
yeah.
And it's like, the, do you guys even know who MODOK is? Have you seen your own comics?
Sometimes I think people have seen the stuff they're working on.
Like, I I was rewatching some old clips from Arrow season 2,
Yeah,
and on the comments of one of them, when Barry is first introduced in setting up the Flash show, and the turnaround question in the comments is, so the Flash writers just forgot that Barry is a CSI, and it's like, yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't want to call the Arrowverse a tragedy because Arrow, in my, sorry DC fans, sorry if you didn't like them, but in my opinion, Arrow, aside from season 4, was strong all the way through, and Supergirl was strong for the first 4 seasons and then started slipping. And even the first half of season 5 was not bad, it was just the latter half. And Legends was good until 3, 4 was completely forgettable, and I think that's both because of what it was and also by quality. And then season 5 recovered, and then I just lost interest after that. But
yeah,
I, I don't know, like the real sort of final note on the DC portion of it is that they're going through a lot of interesting stuff with what James Gunn is doing, and potentially setting up the Superman Legacy film seems to be the big number one of
yeah.
all of them. And it's a format that it's a format that he's sort of looking like he's going for, which it can work. And for DC, I think it is honestly maybe their best way of going about things, film wise. And I want to go back to Black Adam with that. Black Adam as a film was kind of a bit mixed in reception, I think.
I think the general opinion is just that it was bad. But hey, it had rock in it.
Yeah, I think the general opinion is it was between bad or mixed.
Yeah,
But when I've actually looked and seen the positive reviews, or even the people who thought it was mixed but then said what the best part was, they list it as the JSA. So you're listing the 4 established heroes, or well, they were established. I think that because that doesn't count as gun stuff. I don't think so. It's been reset already, but
yeah,
they managed to they managed to make the most positive bit of their film being the factor that you had 4 characters in there, 4 DC characters who are established heroes who have never had introductory films or anything like that. None of the sort of stuff that Marvel did. The closest that Marvel came to doing something like what DC did in Black Adam was Captain America Civil War with Black Panther and Spider Man, just bringing
yeah,
both of them in already established. And I think I think the issue is that every time it gets reset, they're thinking, okay, we need to do these origin stories and all the rest of it, and it's like you're doing to death stories that have been done a million and one times, and like that And it's almost like DC in particular need to get out of the shadow of Superman and Batman a little bit. And I mean, a key sort of indicator of that is Blue Beetle. The Blue Beetle film, although I didn't hear when it was out, and I still haven't actually seen it, it was actually received pretty damn well, to be honest. And I mean, like, he's shown up in animation for years and all the rest of it, but this is the first live action ever viewing of him we've had, except for some sort of thing in Smallville. But Smallville was Smallville.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is something as a DC fan I've argued for ages is that DC's strength is in its character roster. You don't have, when you're looking at the Justice League, you don't have to look at the same old people over and over again. You can look at all the rest of these. And yes, I also know that they are absolutely petrified of doing anything with Green Lantern after the film. The Ryan Reynolds film.
Yeah.
Ah, dear. But
I've kind of come to a conclusion when it comes to both DC and Marvel. Like, I don't watch much Marvel because, well, I don't find their stuff that much interesting. It's like Spider-Man might be a little bit interesting, maybe some Iron Man. And DC, I just watch Batman. Everything else I just don't find it super interesting.
okay, little question here. Have you or did you ever watch Young Justice?
Watch what?
Young Justice.
No.
Okay. I'm actually going to recommend that.
Oh yeah.
I am going to recommend that because of the factor that whilst it focuses on the young heroes and it's easy to think, oh god, there's going to be like Teen Titans, it's not. It really isn't. It is. If you saw any of like the New 52 kind of films that they did, the animated ones, it's more closer to that in tone than anything else. And like Young Justice's plot is basically a game of 3D chess in a game of 5D chess.
Yeah.
It's you have to pay such close attention to little. It is one of those shows that you have to rewatch to actually see the bits you missed in terms of the plot. Because no matter how hard you try, you're gonna miss something. And I mean, there's a reason why fans pushed so hard for it to come back to the point where it did actually come back. And it actually, in the most recent season, also paid homage to the Green Lantern animated series that sadly got cut off because of the film.
Yeah.
So it actually paid homage to that, which was pretty damn awesome to see. And season 1 and 2 are fantastic. Season 3, and season 4 brings it back up to the level of 1 and 2.
Okay.
And it also brings in just so many different characters. It's like it does not fixate over the same characters. It drifts and brings in more and more as just continuously is building the world.
Yeah.
But I think the whole case of just repeating the same stuff is just, I mean, you have it with DC, you have it kind of with Marvel, you had it blatantly obvious with the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not that invested in it, but I am also really, really hoping that House of the Dragon learns from Game of Thrones and does not make the same mistakes. As in, the writers don't get bored and want to rush off.
We can always hope. You know?
Yeah. I find it quite intriguing, though, that there's just so much going on. It I don't want to say it's turbulent because I don't think it is turbulent. I just think it's a transitional phase when it comes to the the creative industry as a whole at the moment. Like, I mean, I would say artists and to an extent musicians have probably been separated from this way more than the rest.
Yeah.
But authors then probably third, and craft makers and all the more physical creations, and then I think film and game are probably the two that have been locked in it for the longest. But you are just seeing the slow step away. Like there was another game that came across my radar, and I think that's an indie made game, but it's a Napoleonic set one. But it's like Napoleonic theatre where you play as a soldier and you can play in first person and be a part of the
Yeah.
ranks and everything. But it's got almost like the artistic style of, and I'm trying to remember which one it is. It was basically I don't know. It was the battle royale, but it was the one that had like the I want to say Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator characters, but that's not the right one. Totally accurate Battle Simulator. So it's like it's got that weird, unique kind of crazy mix, but it also looks like it fits quite well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like I think in some cases though, when it does come to some of these creative industries, they just need to turn around and say, like, time to call it. uh,
Yeah.
Transformers getting like 7 and 8, and they've had like a soft reboot in the middle of them that's like started with
Yeah.
Bumblebee.
Like at some point, people really need to realize they're milking some stuff a little bit too much.
I mean, you want to talk about that? Something came across my radar, and this is more. Well, I say it's more childlike. It is, but it also has its dedicated fans who are now like in their 30s and everything.
Yeah.
But Power Rangers just had its 30th
Oh,
anniversary, and that has been one connected story.
how?
That kind of takes the cake a little bit,
Yeah,
and
honestly.
but it is also a prime example of like the creators going on so long that they just blatantly forget about other bits.
Yeah.
Like the 20th anniversary season is probably one of the most disliked seasons of them all.
Oh, yeah.
It was basically the definition of how not to do an anniversary season, apparently. But
Oh, yeah.
for one thing, they did it on the wrong year.
Yeah. But honestly, in my opinion, and this is probably an unpopular opinion. So I watched the American version of The Office some month ago, right?
Yep.
Uh, and it's probably one of the most milked out series I've seen. Like, uh, I think the 2 or 3 first seasons were pretty good. Then it kind of fell down for a long bit. And then I think it's like season 6 or 7, they started to like get good, where you actually recognize memes and all that.
Yeah, I mean, um, okay, I wouldn't say the show is milked necessarily. I mean,
Yeah.
the writing very blatantly went downhill. Like the supposed big final fight of the series, the final season, and all of it was absolutely atrocious.
Oh yeah, it
But
really was.
this being a Flash, and like whilst it didn't necessarily milk the show, it and to an extent a couple of the other Arrow verse-based
Yeah.
shows, they had a severe issue with milking the same character over and over again, like bringing them back, nostalgic effect and everything. But the most blatant one of that was Thorn in The Flash, because he was the main villain of season 1.
Yeah.
And season 2 brought in another version of him, but that was to sort of play and build up like the idea of like doppelgangers from different Earths. So fair enough. And then he features in season 3, but that's as a fallout from the season 2 ending. So honestly, those first 3 seasons, fair enough. Then he disappears, and he actually ends up over on Legends of Tomorrow season 2, and he's like one of the key villains in that, and that's actually quite awesome what they did with that, and it's quite cool.
Yeah.
But then he appears in the crossover of season 4, and the explanation of how is a bit weird, and then they panic because season 4 of Flash really didn't do very well, and season 5 was really not that much better. And they panicked at the end of season 5 and switched it around and brought Thorn back as the ending villain. And then he does appear in season 6 as well, but is at the fallout of the massive Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover they did. And so, again, that one I don't actually mind because it kind of plays to the character a bit more. But then he vanishes.
Okay.
And then in season 7, he gets brought back to help Barry in the final fight, and then tries to turn on Barry, loses and runs off. And then in season 8 he comes back and is in like the Armageddon event at the start and is the villain of that. And it all gets complicated. He ends up losing his powers and then gets locked up and everything, and then he gets brought back as the sort of embodiment villain at the end, the sort of avatar. But then he gets destroyed. And then he gets brought back in season 9 for the final fight. And all of this is on top of every time they travel back in time to see him, which is several times. And it's like, I don't.
Sounds like great writing.
I don't see any sort of way on how they could have milked that character anymore. In all honesty, it was like, and I mean, credit to Tom Cavanaugh for not getting sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
But then the actual funniest part was they brought because when the Legends one came along, he was like the fallout of the ending of Flash season 2, so he was like he was a different figure, and he ended up going on Legends, and then he got defeated and supposedly killed in Legends, but then he pops back up in season 7, but he's depowered and actually a good guy now, and that one isn't too bad. And then they turn around and make him the villain again.
Of course.
It's just like, oh my god, just kill him and be done with it.
Just be fucking done.
Either do that or send him back to the future. Just do something that's just not bringing him back. But in a way, as a creator, I am glad that I do see stuff like this, because for me personally, in showing how much I absolutely despised stuff like that, it warrants the whole case of, yes, okay, as a creator, I do not do this.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was editing Path of Shah, the third part of the trilogy, I had something that I had done during the sort of concluding final battle, and I completely scrapped it. I completely changed it because I was thinking, no, that's going to take away from one of the most significant parts of the story. Or one of the most significant parts of the story. I'm not going to do that. But
Yeah.
instead, I'm still going to have this individual still play an influence on it, but kind of show the way Athalas as a world kind of works in some cases. Instead of making it into not what would be a cheap cop out, but like be essentially what I would call a cheap thrill. Instead of that, I've turned it into something that, for me, is something that works better
Yeah.
and also plays to building up a bit more of the lore at the same time. So it's a whole change of pace, but I think it works much better that way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was trying so hard to avoid Deus Ex Machinas. um, do you know what's going on with the music industry at the moment? Because it's something that I've kind of completely tuned out of.
I have no idea,
I mean,
honestly.
I mean the most recent song discovery I had of one that I absolutely really enjoyed. Well, actually, there was two. There was a Black Eyed Peas one that came out a couple of years back now,
Yeah.
and there was also one. Never heard of the guys before. It's like Croatian, I think,
Yeah.
but it rapidly went up to like my top 10. So it was it was very fun and nice. And
Yeah.
oh, I don't think it was top 10. I think it was top 15.
Okay.
But I I think I mean one of the things I'm intrigued to see with the Factor is that whole case of our generation being ones that are going to start changing the creative world and moving it onward and things. I'm curious to see to what extent that goes to, but
Yeah.
in some capacities that's kind of difficult to see because it's like our generation are not going to be entirely adults for another 6 years because we go back to like 12-year-olds. So,
Yeah.
and but I do think that it could be quite curious to see what happens. And okay, going to go because it's still going to be creative and everything, but
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a specific little thing here.
Yeah.
And one of the series that I am working on, you helped me come up with a character for it.
Oh yeah.
The Swedish character who can essentially control electricity.
Yeah.
Just curious to see if there was anything particular you'd like to see happen with that character.
Oh, I have no idea, man. um, like when it comes to stuff about just writing a story, I'm not the best to ask questions about it. I'm just gonna be like, I just kill them off. Give them a hero's death. It's like ever since I played Halo Reach, that's just my favorite kind of story.
Halo Reach is a trap for that sort of thing.
Honestly, in my opinion, one of the best stories, which I would have liked to see like become a movie instead of the fucking series we got.
the law breaking series.
Yeah. Like, what's with those people and just
Although, as
not reading the books or even playing the games?
I mean, it's the same mentality with Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Uh, I As much as I will fundamentally refuse to watch that series, I will actually say I saw clips of what they did with the Fall of Reach, and whilst no, it's not lore accurate, the way they actually portrayed it, like cinematography wise, was brilliant. To be
Oh yeah.
honest, and I mean, well, they completely break the law when they kill off keys, but
Yeah. That's a little bit.
but even then, it's like the way he goes out is still awesome. But
Yeah.
it's like one of those collaborative things where it's almost like you have to switch off the Halo fan brain to enjoy it.
Well,
I
I've just been evading that series, just because I've seen this like a fan movie in production right now,
oh,
which
can you remember the name of it? Because I might have heard of it.
I can't really remember, but it should be more lore accurate than the actual
I
series.
mean,
That's all I
on
know.
the Halo front, like there has been talk of, was it 2021? There's been a new game in development since, and
I
it
think so. I think they opened an IP for a new game
there there
since like
there is
Infinite was
something
released.
there is something going on, and there's been a lot of background movement that indicates there's a new product coming, and like
Yeah,
it could be, we could get mentions of it potentially later this year.
yeah.
Could get a trailer possibly.
Honestly, I would guess it would probably be Halo Wars 3, maybe, if
Well,
anything.
even if it is Halo Wars 3, because of what they've done with 2,
Yeah,
they have to connect it.
yeah,
It's at a point now where unless they did something like how they did with Halo 3 ODST, they have to connect it to the story
exactly.
because like if they went into Halo Wars 3 with the Spirit of Fire and everything, but then made no mention of what happened to Anders,
Yeah.
people would be enraged.
Oh yeah. But
And
honestly, I think Halo Wars 3 would be pretty good because, as we might have noticed with the last FPS Halos, they're not going very far when it comes to the storytelling.
honestly, I think Halo Infinite would have done, and this is going to sound really, really weird.
Yeah,
I think Halo Infinite would have done better if it had wildlife.
yeah. Honestly, because
Because
like,
as much as there's a lot of unknowns still about that, and
yeah,
about what happens to the Infinity, how it gets taken out so quickly, and all the
yeah,
rest of it. But and where are Lasky and all the others? Like the only actual confirmation of a character or characters who are alive that you do not see in the game are Orbiter
yeah,
and Vale,
yeah. Exactly.
because they were in. It wasn't Point of Light; it was another book. They
Yeah,
were in one of the most recent Halo books.
but
So,
like,
and they are elsewhere, and also they made mention that Artas Vadum is
yeah,
also still alive. Good old Halfjaw.
yeah.
That he's
But
still alive and
I've been a
kicking.
little bit disappointed with this thing with how the campaign was basically just a DLC for the game.
Yeah, yeah.
That you had to pay like we have to pay 60 euros. I don't know how much it costs over in Britain, but we paid
It was like 50. It
60 euros.
was like 50
Yeah,
quid.
and like 60 euros for a DLC where you get basically the campaign and some more armor for your multiplayer character. It does not sit right with me. Uh,
I think honestly, Since 343 have taken over, their focus has been far more multiplayer orientated than
Yeah.
story. I mean, I will grant them that Halo 4's story is very good.
Yeah.
Halo 5's is absolutely crap.
Just the
And
whole development of that game
and
is
I,
just
I, I wouldn't
crap.
say I wouldn't say Halo Infinite story is crap. I would say
Yeah.
it's underwhelming.
Yeah,
It's going in the
you
right
would have
direction,
expected
but
a
it
little
didn't go
bit
enough.
more.
But then you also have Halo Wars 2, and the
Yeah,
way they picked up that story was again really awesome. Like so
yeah,
they showed the
that was
potential.
brilliant. But in my opinion, Halo 5 had probably one of the best multiplayers.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it really was good playing multiplayer in that game.
I just think that it's they need to they just need to understand that as great as Halo multiplayer is, that is only one part of what has made that series so successful. The other
Yeah,
part is the campaign, it's the stories, it's all of this.
exactly.
And yeah, I'm actually going to be starting to read a Halo book pretty soon.
Yeah.
I'm going to be reading a Rubicon Protocol.
Yeah. I started reading the Halo books by last summer, actually, and I'm reading through the Forerunner saga
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, yeah. That's which one you want? Because
I'm on
they're apparently
the
really good.
yeah, they're actually really good. So
With
I'm reading the Silentium.
Silentium, yeah.
Yeah,
The I mean, like Point of Light as well. That's got his own stuff going on. Like, but I it is hard to tell. And I mean, obviously there were a few absolutely massive teasers
yeah,
in Infinite. One being the Flood Silexes,
yeah. Like,
the other being Atriox being alive after thinking
yeah,
that he's like what's happened to him, and the last one, the literal just mention of offensive bias.
yeah. Like, I would love to maybe some campaign DLC extra, just
Hmm,
giving us a little bit more. I would have paid for it, but it's like,
yeah, I think that goes back to the mentality of like what people like Great Book of Grudges was saying about
yeah,
creative assembly is the fact of that like we're we're people who are playing the games. Like we want to spend money on these things, but we don't want to do it if we feel like we're getting cheated.
exactly. Like, I don't want to feel scammed
Yeah,
for
and
buying something I actually like.
and I I honestly think in terms of the likelihood of the new Halo game, um, as much as people want it, I sincerely doubt it's going to be a flood horror game. I think the that whole case of the horror games releasing and being consecutive and doing really well, I think that's been and gone.
Yeah,
And
I think so as well. But
also
it would
like
have been pretty cool to just,
also I mean, as much as I'm saying that, there is actually something I wouldn't mind with
yeah,
it, but I think in terms of the likelihood, I would say Halo 7, whatever the title
yeah,
might be, is probably the most likely. Halo Wars 3 is then second, and then I'm sorry, but I'd say Halo. Well, what would it be called? Because it can't be called Halo 2 ODST because we had Halo 3 ODST. So Halo ODST or something like that as the bottom tier. But
yeah,
if they did do Halo 7, that sort of flood survival type thing, even if it was just a game mode, that would be awesome for a DLC.
yeah. I would love to see something more with like the marine perspective of the whole stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, It would have been great just because, like, in the first books, I think you get to follow a lot more through with how the Marines feel and think, and I think it would have been great addition to the Halo games. Just having another one of those side games, so to call it, where you get more action. Just like Halo Infinite, you get more. Not just the Spartans, but like the people behind the Spartans and all that order them around.
Um,
With like, what's the sergeant's name in Halo Wars 1?
Forge,
Yeah, Forge. Like,
because his
having him in there was fucking amazing.
like one of the big things that came out in one of the recent books, was it Point of Light? I keep thinking Point of Light is like the one title I've got in my head. But, in like one of the groups of characters that are going around in the books, one of the characters in one of those groups is literally Forge's daughter.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Halo has a thing about having sergeants who then die and then their daughters taking over.
Yeah.
Or no, characters, and because Johnson did not have a daughter.
Yeah.
But I will also say that if they do Halo 7 or Halo Wars 3, if it's Halo Wars 3, please either be on the Arc or Zeta Halo.
Yeah.
Don't move it about again. And if it is Halo 7, I mean, there was. Can I actually draw this up? Because this came out a little while back now, but there was like a teaser image that got released or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a. Oh, that's a sad throwback. Halo Canon 2013, Halo 5 to the Arc with a question mark. Yeah, it's Halo Follower. A month ago, there was a whole image of. Hang on, I'm just going to pull it up and then just mute it quickly.
Yeah.
Or pause it. I don't need to mute.
343 just images.
Quiet. Yeah, it was a month ago this came out, and it is of, I think it's one image or maybe a couple of images, but it was of, I think the key thing about it was the greater arc, it wasn't the lesser arc.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, one of the theories that places like Installation 00 had and everything is that the ending of Halo Infinite had some degree of time travel in it. And I mean, when it comes to the whole thing about Infinite's ending, how many times does the concept of time get mentioned?
A lot.
So it seems like they are pointing at that as quite a factor, and so maybe it's the case that the next Halo game is going to be one that I could imagine it being one of two things. I could imagine it almost going through a similar mentality that Ruby went through with Volume 9, where the characters who were being followed were taken off somewhere else that didn't work in the same sort of time.
Yeah.
And when they come back, there has been some sort of time skip.
Yeah.
Maybe the same thing happens here. Possibly. I don't know.
It might be.
But sorry, we both went real Halo fanboy there.
Yeah.
There's been okay, just rating out all the different sort of main style creative worlds out there at the moment. Lord of the Rings, you've got War of the Rohirrim coming out,
Yeah.
which is going to be either really, really awesome or it's going to be horrible. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground.
Yeah, I'm probably leaning over to horrible.
Cynic.
I'm more like a half-empty kind of guy.
And Star Wars is. What is Star Wars at the moment?
I don't know, but I feel like Andor might have some.
It's one of those weird things where Star Wars is coming back into the case where its animation is just doing amazingly again, and then
Yeah.
its live action's very up and down.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, Bad Batch, and now you've got that Tales of the Empire thing coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I didn't like season 3 so far of Bad Batch.
Is Tales of the Empire a follow-up from Tales of the Jedi, or is it a follow-up from Bad Batch? Because I've heard conflicting things.
I think it's probably gonna be a follow-up to Tales of the Jedi, probably.
The fact that I've seen Barriss Sophie in the trailer kind of indicates more of that, possibly.
Yeah.
And although I do kind of wish they just stuck with the Jedi and flushed out the Council more.
Yeah. That'd be pretty neat.
So you've got that. You've got what Lord of the Rings is going on. Halo is in all sorts of questions. You've got Warhammer: The Old World now. I know that's not a digital-based game necessarily, but it's still creative and it's still a return to Warhammer Fantasy. And I'm sorry, but how much of that was just spurred on by how successful the Total War trilogy was? Especially 2. I will say that, especially 2. 2 was... I think the one issue I have with Warhammer 2 is that I wish it didn't make Warhammer 1 redundant.
Yeah.
But you've got that, and then you've got... Trying to think of other fantasy and sci-fi ones. You've got the Dune films coming out at the moment.
Yep.
And I mean, the one that's consistently seeming to last, like just eternally, World of Warcraft. It's just consistently getting, and I think it is still getting new books as well. Like there's constant establishments and stories going on with that, which to see something going on that long, because one of the indications of talks was like how RuneScape just rose up again and came back.
Yeah.
But to see something going that strong and for that far is really nice to see, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
I have no idea.
What just happened?
I kind of zoned out.
Oh. You're alright to continue?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't need you passing out on camera or anything. Well, not that you'd be on camera now, but...
Yeah. No, I just really zoned out of nowhere.
Oh dear. Is there anything creative coming up, like regardless of whatever medium it is, that you're looking forward to or holding out some hope for? And I mean, even if you just say the general future of creativity, that will still be a good answer.
I have not felt the feeling of hope since 2016.
That's depressing.
I don't know. It's just like
This is meant to be a celebratory podcast that you just went.
Actually, can I change it to like 2014 when when the seventh Star Wars movie came out?
Yeah. But maybe it is a case right now where, whilst hoping not all, I do want to
Yeah.
expressly say that not all, but some of the big sort of names in film and all of this are, in some cases, they are struggling in like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Um, but in others, it's very up and down,
Yeah.
and which kind of begs the question: is like, is the hope now with the indie? Is the hope now with the? Because I mean, how many times have you seen it where you've had people who have been modders or like a modding team that have then stopped modding to go on and try and develop their own game, and that is happening.
Yeah.
It feels like more frequently.
Like I feel like
But obviously, one
that's
of
an option or possibilities
yeah,
that
some
people
mean,
that doesn't have higher ups telling them to do
yeah, the proper creative
exactly what they're
freedom,
supposed to do. Yeah.
not being hamstrung by something else. Yeah.
I think it might be helping, and I think I saw like
But it also plays back to what we mentioned earlier about the fact
yeah,
that there are more platforms now where someone can
exactly.
just go and do that.
It's like right now there's several ways in where you can just do whatever you want. And I find that it's good in one way that it allows people to do basically what they want. But as soon as it starts getting too big, that's where problems starts to emerge because that's just what happens when something gets big. You get more problems.
Yeah, I was going to mention something about corporate versus indie, but I just
Yeah.
completely lost the train of thought there.
But like, if you look at the music industry,
That's probably one of the biggest. Well,
yeah,
it is both like one of the biggest, but it's also probably one of the longest examples of this.
yeah, exactly. Because like, as an example, we have Oasis. Like they had big problems with like the big music producers and all that. I think there was some stuff that they got through at court and all that, right? I
I
can't remember
don't
too
know
much.
necessarily.
Yeah, I watched the Oasis movie some years ago, and like they just wanted to do their thing, but the producers were like, "Yeah, nah, you do whatever we pay you to do." So I think it's same problem within the movie and gaming industry when it comes to like the big producers that a lot of the higher ups just swing around with I rule, I'm the best kind of logic.
It is almost a case that it is almost a case where, again, want to expressly state this: not all of them, but some of
Yeah,
them, like some of the ones that are way more notable for it, it's gone to the case where they've gotten so big and everything that they've completely become the higher ups have become completely disconnected with what got them there.
yeah, exactly.
And I mean, you brought up music, and that plays onto another thing. It's like you're talking. It's what the creative industry is doing is awesome, but again, there are annoyances, and this is not a creative annoyance. This is an annoyance with the platforms, and is the case of YouTube in particular. Please, for the love of all things holy, fix your music copyright stuff.
Yeah.
Because the fact that multiple YouTubers who do both Star Wars, Halo content, and all the others, the amount of them that I've seen put up videos over the past year and a half talking about the fact that they've been getting false copyright claimed against their channels for using music that they were within their rights to use, because you've got these new groups that are just forming up and trying to pull these scams, and it is, especially with the fact that more people are making this sort of thing into a living now.
Yeah.
It goes beyond unfair to the factor of this is now a serious problem.
Yeah.
In some cases, and it does need to get resolved. And I don't know the first thing about how you would go about doing that, but it's the point that...
But the problem still lies within the music industry.
Yeah, I mean, that is the entire principle that why I do my absolute damnedest to make sure that no music is on when I'm doing anything. Yeah. There are some things you can't avoid, like the Sims 4 loading music when you finally load in. You can't cut that out. So it's and the and also Divide and Conquer. Divide and Conquer is an annoying one because, and I know there is some way you can change this in the files, but I need to swap on how to do that again. You can return it to regular baseline medieval 2.
Yeah.
But the problem is when the end turn starts, for the first couple of factions it goes by, is playing Lord of the Rings music. And if you've seen, I don't know if you have or if anyone watching has, but if you've seen any of my streams before where I've been playing Divide and Conquer under Darwinian stuff, as soon as that's popped up, I have immediately gone nope and slammed my mute button. And I have actually got it ingrained in now where it switches to just no music. So it's just ensuring that I do not get caught out by that. And because I mean the bottom line, and it's the bottom line that a lot of creators are at, is that it's not only a pain when this happens and problematic for some when it happens, but it's also the case that half the time this music is about stuff we love. We don't want to make it look like we're stealing the work of something we love.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the first book of mine and the rest of it, and there is a lot of Lord of the Rings inspiration there, so to think hypothetically that I would want to steal something from Lord of the Rings after it's such a massive inspiration of what I have created, it just, no, that's not something I would ever want to do. That. I do love the fact that in a lot of cases, the creative stuff has some of the creative stuff moved into sort of side hustles, but then has branched out into the mainstream careers now in fairly quick succession. But then you have other elements of the creative industry that's just basically bunny hopped over that stage. I don't know. I think one of the interesting things we have been seeing over the last few years is the more game turn film stuff, in terms of not so much in terms of what they did with Warcraft and that, but I mean in terms of what they did with Detective Pikachu or Sonic, those kind of films. Taking the game characters and making films about them.
Yeah.
there is such a sizable crossover, and I think as gaming is growing and books are coming back in a lot of ways, or writing and stories and all the rest of it, this crossover is sort of growing, and then it's like I'm trying to pretty much symbolize how to explain this. It's like you've got the three tiers, and then you've got the two like interconnecting ones
Yeah.
that are like integral parts, and the top three are the more crossing over ones at the moment are gaming, film, and book.
Yeah.
And then underneath those, in the interconnecting sort of portions, you've got art and you've got music. That's how I see it at the moment. Like, because I mean, artists are just fantastic with what they are able to do, and I mean, every time I go to a film and just see Hans Zimmer's name pop up, there's a small smile.
Yeah.
And it's like music and art together do so much for films and games and yes, books as well. Maybe music not so much for books, but unless it's an audio book.
Yeah.
But you have that interesting sort of topsy-turvy mix. But it's a real nice way of kind of looking at it as well, because you don't... The creative world is one of those worlds where every little bit can interlock with each other, and you're seeing that more and more. You're almost seeing like these hardened lines that were once maybe there, that completely digress them, and you're seeing them slowly get faded as things are being able to mingle together a bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm even making any sense here.
You're making a little bits of sense.
Oh, good little bits.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard without being able to like show you what I mean visually.
Yeah. But I'm kind of starting to lose a little bit of attention right now because my back is really hurting.
What did you do?
I was working yesterday.
Ah.
A lot of lifting. And I did not lift correctly sometimes.
You lift with your back, don't you?
Yep, I did.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think I'm gonna have to cut it a little bit short for tonight.
Well, to be honest, I was going to actually say, like, the initial plan was, like, because most of the podcast episodes tend to be around an hour, I was going to just, like, this was just going to be an extra hour long, so, and we're already, like, there's only, like, 15 minutes left, so yeah, we can cut it a little bit short if you like.
Oh, yeah, that would be pretty nice, because my back is kind of killing me.
Yes, go and nurse your back so it doesn't end up how your leg did the other year. But do you have any little like final notes about where the creative industry's at, just in general?
Well, I think there's a lot of good things that can come out from the creative industries. It's just that people need to have that creative freedom to do what they want, and then someone that maybe leads them on to making a red line out of it all, basically.
Yeah, my way of sort of translating that is, if in my own mind, is like there's almost a proverbial like lock around creators, and it doesn't need to be broken necessarily, but it needs to be loosened a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that is what you have been starting to see over the last couple of years. That, and I think in a weird way, COVID and stuff like that were actually motivators for it.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, we will wrap up that podcast episode here. Johan, thank you
Yeah,
thank you for rejoining. I'm again sorry that other guest couldn't make it, but he had something come up last minute.
Yeah, that's all right. Thanks for
And
having me.
no problem. It was nice to have a returning guest on. Hopefully, if there is a third time, we can work out just how to navigate Discord without being infuriated by it. And for those of you on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this little extended special. And please do comment, like, and subscribe. Please do check out the comments in the description. If you've got any nice messages you would like to pass on to Johan, put them in the comments and I'll pass them on to him. And until next time, for the YouTubers, welcome to the Kingdom of Athalas and the world of Felomine books.